Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. When I was setting the handle on the Iron City 12-pound sledge, I used the spoke shave and the draw knife to shape the handle down to fit the eye. The spoke shave works really good on doing finish work, but I needed to take off a fair amount of wood. So I was using the draw knife. And the draw knife I was using is one that I've had a while. I got them, and originally the idea was to be able to shave down beams. Yeah, that's ambitious. I also got a broad axe and splitting wedges and big chisels and all kinds of things just so that I could work with beams. What was the reason for it? Well, I wanted to put a big beam up under the floor of my workshop so that the second story would be supported. Well, it took a lot of work making the tools to make the beam, but I got it done. Story for another day. But the problem I was running into, the draw knives that I was getting were in pretty sad shape. People weren't selling new draw knives at the time, at least not that I could find. And buying them used from antique shops and yard sales and flea markets and junk shops, I ended up getting some draw knives that were in terrible condition, kind of like this one. Now this one is a W.W. Bryan. Handle's broken on it. The blade is really dull. And somebody used a hammer on the back of it. It's swaybacked, where somebody beat on it trying to drive it into the wood. I think they thought it was something to split shingles. Everybody knows that's supposed to be a froe. A froe is a heavy blade that you can hit with a wooden club and drive it through and split off shingles and, cut chunks out of a piece of wood. Draw knife is supposed to be a much more finesse tool than a froe, but people did what they could with what they had, and you ended up with these things all beat up. Well, to get the first one sharp, I spent literally days with oil stones and water stones grinding away this surface, trying to get it flat. And I got it fairly flat, but man, was it a lot of work. I was 3 days just getting the backside flat. That wasn't even sharpening the edge. And this is sharp. It's not shaving sharp, but it's sharp enough it cuts you if you weren't paying attention. So after setting the handle, I was looking at the draw knife thinking it would have been nice to have it a little sharper because that hickory doesn't cut too well. And I thought, wait a minute, I've got a tool I've never had before. So I took this little belt sander and in 20 minutes time, I flattened the back of this better than any other draw knife I have. And I have now 3 of them sharpened. These 2 were done by hand. Tremendous amount of time spent on them. They work, like I said, they work. They're sharp. They're not razor sharp, but they're sharp. This one, 20 minutes. Both edges, sharp. And when I say sharp, I mean sharp enough to shave with. There's a bare spot on my arm and a pile of hair on the blade to prove it. This is a Buhlson's draw knife. B-U-H-L-S-O-N-S. Buhlson's and Company. I have a Buhl carpenter's hatchet that might be an offshoot of that company, but this is an 8-inch draw knife. Does a very nice job now. And unfortunately, when I was sharpening that, I took pictures. At least I thought I did. This camera failed me miserably. It failed to record. It was showing on the screen, it just didn't go on the chip. Now it worked before that and it worked after that. Must be I set something wrong on it, because I don't think the camera decided all of a sudden it wasn't going to take pictures. Something I did. So I'm going to show you, as a way of demonstrating how I did it, I'm going to use the belt sander to flatten the back of this blade, show you just how fast it goes. And it took a lot longer to do that one because I had to learn how to set up the grinder. It took a lot longer to do the first one with the belt sander than it's going to take to do this one, because I had to learn how to use the belt sander effectively. Hard part was flattening the back, because the back is such a wide area of steel, and on these smaller draw knives, the back side has been left to rust, so there's deep pits in it. And the pits mean that you have a ragged sawtooth edge on the front, and it doesn't slice well. So I needed to take down that surface far enough to get rid of the pits. So I'm using a 40 grit belt to start with. To get the belt out, you flex it in so that these top pieces can come up through the hole, and it comes right out. I fought that for quite a while. The 40 grit belt takes most of the punishment because it's doing the heavy lifting. The other two just remove the scratches from this. And then the belt bricks. I was running at max, trying to get it to go a little faster. Okay, having gone through the 40, and by looking closely you can see that the 40 grit has taken away most of the scratches left from previous efforts, and I've got a reasonably flat surface. And this edge out here is actually smooth. So now we'll put the 80 grit belt on it. Now we go with the 120. Now these are some belts from Harbor Freight. They don't last long, but these are much finer than the other ones. You can see that that's pretty nice looking. Now, up in this area, it's still got some pits in it, but I don't want to take all that steel down because I'll just weaken the blade unnecessarily. It won't make it any sharper. It'll just improve the look of it, but this isn't about my ego, it's about making a sharp tool. I set it up this way just because the edge of the bench is 2 inches thick. And it makes a very uncomfortable gripping point for the clamps. Okay, now we're going to do the top part with the 80 grit. I'm going to do the top part with a 40 grit. Let's see, where's the 40? Here's the 40. Yep. It's down thin, ragged but thin. $40, $80, always want to check the arrow on the belt. Once they get worn, it's almost impossible to see the arrow. Rather amazing how fast the 80 grit removes the scratches from the 40 grit. Not going to have much arm hair left, but it's sharp. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.
This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the US or 16 in the European Union, without the express written permission of the parents or legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.